Kia ora, I'm Logan, one half of Kiwivision, and just recently we wrapped up our very extensive coverage of Eurovision for 2023. So we're now in the position where we need to wait until next year when the next season comes around. And to tide us over, we're going to be doing some other content. We're going to be looking at some different TV shows and movies and music, live performances, that type of thing. But we're basically just going to trial a few ideas. So let us know if there's anything in particular you want us to review or react to. That would be great. And we hope you stay with us for the ride. We do want to get back to Eurovision content as soon as we can. Today we're going to take a little step back into history and look at the very thought-provoking TV show, The Twilight Zone. This is the original series from the late 50s. I'm a late convert of the show, but recently I've been watching a bunch of episodes and I've really fallen in love with it. I think despite it being a time capsule, it actually still has a lot of real-world relevance. It has a lot to say about power, human nature, technology. So I hope you don't mind this little retrospective, and maybe I'll even convert a few of you to the TV series. Now, just a warning, there will be some minor spoilers. I'll be talking about the premises of a lot of these episodes, but obviously I won't be ruining any of the big twists. That is one of the hallmarks of The Twilight Zone. Feel free to share your thoughts below if you're a fan of the series. What are your personal highlights? What are some maybe lesser known episodes that I should check out? I should mention I haven't seen all of however many 200 episodes, but I have seen a big chunk of them. Okay, well let's start off with number 15. So this is from season 3, episode 16. It's called Nothing in the Dark. Now this is maybe one of the most somber episodes. Basically the premise is there is an old lady, she's living in an apartment, and she's really petrified of the outside world. She doesn't want to let anyone in her house.
Unless you help me, I'm going to die.
Now Robert Redford is in this, a young Robert Redford, looking devilishly handsome of course, and it's really interesting. It's a slow burn in some ways, but actually it's a lovely meditation on the nature of death, how it doesn't necessarily have to be this really scary thing, and I just think it's a really nicely crafted half hour of television.
Look around, it's the way things are. A big tree falls and new ones grow right out of the same ground.
Now number 15 from season 3 again, episode 14, 5 characters in search of an exit. It really sounds like the beginning of a bad joke. There's a clown, there's a bagpiper, there's a ballet dancer, a homeless person, and an army major. And they all, for some reason, are stranded in this cylinder that's really high, that's hard to climb. There's an open top, but they have no idea how they've managed to end up here or what it all means. So you're kind of thinking, oh, is this philosophical? Is this an afterlife? How has this been orchestrated? What exactly is going on here?
Maybe we're all insane. Or maybe this is a mirage.
And there's great tension and mystery at its center, which I think is really cool. I also want to give a shout out to some of the really memorable performances, in particular Murray Matheson as the clown. What an interesting presence, a good physical comedic actor.
A circus? Yeah, there must be a circus. A clown, a circus, an officer, a war.
Number 13, we get to season 1 and episode 8. This one is called Time Enough at Last, and I think it's quite well known in Twilight Zone circles. We have Burgess Meredith, an icon, and you know, there's some really great environmental imagery, cinematography, and storytelling here. It somehow blends this idea of a person being a bookworm, absolutely obsessed with literature, with this backdrop of like nuclear destruction, apocalypse, and the two threads come together in a really unexpected but satisfying way. It's one of the most original feeling episodes, and Rod Serling himself, who's the creator, he said this was his favourite episode.
The best laid plans of mice and men, and Henry Bemis.
Number 12, again from season 1, it was a really strong season. Episode 30, it's a stop at Willoughby. There are some great one-liners in this one. It's a push business, push, push, push.
Push, push, all the way, all the time, right on down the line.
I think it's a really, really relatable episode. It's about that 9-to-5 grind, that hyper-competitiveness in capitalism. Haven't we all felt like the main character who just wants to escape from all that and maybe pursue a quaint place like this fictional town Willoughby?
Hiya, Mr. Williams. Welcome.
Thank you.
There's a real relatable human quality at the core of this story, and while the ending is a bit predictable, I think it all works. It's a satisfying enough conclusion. Number 11, from season 5, episode 17, this one is called Number 12 Looks Just Like You. Now I see this one as a spiritual predecessor to the Stepford Wives. There's this dystopian feeling. It's all about what the society deems as beautiful. You come of age and you basically choose one of the models and you have surgery to look like that model.
The transformation is the most marvelous thing that could happen to a person. Well, I could wait a little while.
There's also a rumination on societal control, using these standards as a control mechanism.
I feel good. I always feel good. Life is pretty, life is fun. I am all and all is one.
I did think about including Eye of the Beholder instead. That's an episode that explores some similar themes. But with Eye of the Beholder, once you know the twist, there isn't really much more to mine out of that story. Whereas with this one, I think it has greater longevity. There is more complexity, I think, that comes through via the scripting and the world building, and this nod to kind of the radical politics within the story. So I think there's just a little bit more meat on the bones with that one, but I do like both episodes. Number 10, from season 1, episode 16, The Hitchhiker. This is a Hitchcockian fever dream, which I just love. As someone that is a fan of Vertigo and Psycho and The Birds, it's a masterclass, this episode, in building tension.
Maybe it isn't really a fear, it's more just a sense of disquiet. A feeling that things are a little wrong.
I also love all the shots of America as the main character, a female character, road trips across the country. There's some really nice camera work there, fast cutting, just interesting shots, and a real eerie feeling that permeates everything that's going on. You really start to question your own perception of what's happening. There's clearly this malignant presence that's following this poor lady, but to what end? It's really, really interesting.
Where are you going?
Number 9. Season 1, episode 11, we have And When the Sky Was Opened. This was actually the most recent episode I watched, and I was just hooked on this one. It's another psychological thriller. We have a spacecraft that was found in the Mojave Desert. 2 members of the crew came back. However, one claims, wait, didn't we have a 3rd member of our crew? Where did he go?
Oh, that's a good-looking guy in the middle there, but who are the 2 slobs on the sides?
Any evidence that he was once there seems to have been wiped. It's all very strange and mysterious. The lead character, and sorry I can't remember his name, but he's just fantastic. Gives an absolutely unhinged performance which he sells. I also really enjoyed the ambiguity of this one too. The ending is a little bit open-ended, which I always appreciate. Number 8, it's season 2, episode 29, The Obsolete Man. Another one that is dystopian, tailor-made for fans of the book 1984. It posits the question, what happens if your society deems that you are surplus to requirements? You're no longer needed. We have no use for you in this social structure.
You're found to be obsolete. The purpose of this hearing is to make a finding in the matter and make a sentence accordingly. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Your occupation, Mr. Wordsworth?
A librarian, sir.
A what?
This is one of the classic episodes. It is a tad moralistic, but I think it's still really impactful. And it has a lot to say even now in 2023 with automation, the meteoric rise of AI. Like, that will displace a lot of people from particular professions. So this question about being useful to your society, it endures.
I don't fit your formulae. Somewhere along the line, there's been a deviation from the norm. Your state has everything categorized, indexed, tagged. You're the strength. People like me are the weakness. You control and order and dictate. And my kind merely follow and obey. But something's gone wrong, hasn't it?
The Twilight Zone really likes taking aim at oppressive governments, injustice, and also the undervaluing of things like literature. It hits on a lot of classic Twilight Zone themes, and I think it's a really successful piece of television. Number 7. This is from season 5. It's episode 25, The Masks. Now, at its core, this one is a really complex family drama. It feels like a play. I really, really like seeing the different layers being pulled back from the family members, seeing their motivations, seeing that they're a bit morally corrupt and they're just after this dying old man's inheritance. They seem quite vapid and clawing and shallow.
And you, Paula?
Delighted to see you, Grandfather.
Now, that's friendly of you to tell me that. Considering that you haven't seen me yet, all you've seen is your mirror image.
Oh, grandfather.
And it's also just a revenge story, and who doesn't like that as a narrative setup?
You came to reap everything I've sown, to collect everything I've built. Well, I shall not disappoint you.
Also, shout out to the special effects. Really creepy, really well done. Number 6, Season 5, Episode 3, It's Nightmare at 20,000 Feet. Another episode that you probably have a passing knowledge of. You might have seen this one or at least heard about it. It takes place in an aeroplane, already kind of a scary premise if you think about it. Being part of this metal machine that's hurtling through the sky. You know, you want everything to go right when you're on a flight. So here we have a character played by William Shatner in fine form. He has discovered something is seriously wrong, but people won't believe him due to his mental health history.
Mr. Wilson, I'm warning you. Will you please look in the name of...
I really appreciate the way that the tension just steadily ratchets up until it gets to a fever pitch. It's a simple setup, but really engaging, and love that they incorporated a little jump scare into this one. Number 5, Season 2, Episode 7, Nick of Time. This is another William Shatner episode. I have to say, he's looking very cute in this episode. Handsome man indeed.
Don't think I should phone the office again, huh?
You are going to lose that promotion if you keep pestering me, Lover.
I'm going to lose it anyway.
So here we have a young couple who turn up in this small town. They go to this diner and stumble across this really bizarre little device. It looks like a devil. It's some sort of fortune-telling machine, and they just start to ask it some questions.
Does he, she love me? I know the answer to that one, huh?
Naturally, they get hooked on the answers and start to kind of believe in its power. So it's a little meditation on how humans are really susceptible to superstition. I think it makes its point excellently. And it's one of those scenarios where you think, gosh, that could have happened to me. I could have been stuck in that cycle of superstition as well. Number 4, The Lonely. This is Season 1, Episode 7. So here we have a man who is convicted of homicide, and we're told he's wrongly convicted. But nevertheless, he needs to serve his sentence on a remote asteroid entirely alone.
Confinement in this case stretches as far as the eye can see.
And it's fair to say that the Twilight Zone has a real interest in this theme of human loneliness and how a person can really crack if they don't have human contact for prolonged periods of time. I think this episode is a really smooth execution of this idea. I like how it's filmed on location in a desert. It looks really barren and like it's somewhere in space. There's not too many bells and whistles with this episode. It's just really well told, great performances from the main cast, great setting, and all the narrative threads just work.
We'll be back in 3 months. Look, when you open up that crate, there's nothing you need to do. The item's been vacuum packed. You'll need no activator of any kind. The air will do that. Now, they don't know what it is that I've brought, so I'd appreciate your waiting until we get out of sight.
Number 3, from Season 3, Episode 3, it is The Shelter. Now, I really went back and forth in terms of whether I included this one or The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street, which is similar. I ultimately went with The Shelter. I do think it's a really underrated episode. Basically, there's this prospect of nuclear war looming. Neighbors are meeting for a dinner party when they get the news that missiles might be heading their way.
As of this moment, we have been unable to determine the nature of these objects, but for the time being, in the interest of national safety, we are declaring a state of yellow alert.
Now, one of the neighbors in the suburb is a doctor, and he has taken the time to build himself and his family a shelter, but there's only enough room and oxygen, resources for his immediate family. So this causes massive conflict with the other people who didn't take the time to build a shelter and are relying on his help now. It's this interesting human struggle. It feels really believable. And the reason why I went with The Shelter over The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street is I just think the pacing was a bit more skillful. I really liked the script. I thought there were echoes of racial undertones, a lot of subtext that was just really clever.
That's the way it is when the foreigners come over here. Pushy, grabby, semi-Americans.
To be fair, both episodes are great and worth watching, but I just thought this explored the theme in a really top-tier way.
For civilization to survive, the human race has to remain civilized.
Number 2, Season 3, Episode 8, It's a Good Life. This is another classic episode, and it's quite chilling. Here we have the residents of Peaksville, Ohio, where something is seriously wrong. Basically, they are under the tyrannical rule of a 6-year-old. Here we meet Anthony Fremont. He's a total monster.
He shouldn't have thought those bad thoughts. That's why I made him go on fire.
He's emotionally immature, he's impulsive. You really feel for the poor family members and neighbors who are just trying to survive to keep this little kid happy. They're really buckling under the pressure of his oppressive regime.
Dan, please. For the love of heaven, please don't say anything.
Who's saying anything? I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything at all.
Again, some great one-liners. This one just stays with you. It's totally sci-fi and out there, but at the same time, is Anthony Fremont different from a childish dictator? You know, there are parallels to be created. And number 1 from season 4, episode 16, On Thursday We Leave for Home. This is perhaps a controversial choice because season 4 was the season where they were experimenting with longer form episodes, about 60 minutes rather than the half an hour. And for many episodes, they really suffered in quality due to this extra time. There was more time wasting, really, beating around the bush rather than getting to the point. But with an episode like this, I think the longer runtime really worked. There was extra space to get to know the characters, to develop the world building, to really up the stakes. Basically, we have a human colony on this distant planet. They're quite impoverished. They're really sweltering under the oppression of the two suns. We have this man called William Benteen, who has been their leader ever since they left Earth. Apparently they fled wars back home. And he's been a pretty faithful, successful leader in the intervening decades that followed.
We thought we could escape war. We thought we could... Well, we thought that we could build an even better place. And it took us 30 years to find out that we'd left our home 1 billion miles away. To be only visitors here. Transients. Because you can't put down roots in this ground.
However, we learn that a spacecraft is coming to collect them, to return them to the homeland, and suddenly we see this man, Benteen, realize, gosh, my power's gonna slip away from my fingers, and he's really threatened by this, and you see his insecurities come out. And it's just a really interesting case study about humankind and how we're drawn to power and can't bear to lose it. These sort of political episodes, I think The Twilight Zone just nails.
But together. That's the word. Together. We must stay together.
Overall, just a super engaging premise and a perfectly executed episode. Okay, so that's my top 15. As I said, I haven't watched every single episode. I am on that journey, but it takes a long time. However, do let me know in the comments below what your highlights are, if I should watch maybe lesser known and underrated episodes. I'd really invite your feedback. Also, just to remind you, we're going to be looking at a wide variety of media. We'll look at some other TV shows, maybe some other movies, music videos, live performances, and do let us know if you have any suggestions for content that we could cover. Hopefully you stay with us. Thank you so much for all your support so far. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Ka kite.
Let's do this again. A little different this time. I told myself that money would never be a factor.